Well, hello again. I can't believe we're already up to part 7, and all we've actually colored in is 1, 2, 3, 4 wires. Well, are you ready for a little bit more sleuthing today? This is going to be a short video. Yeah, right. We're going to try to make it a short video because we've got most of the the research type work out of the way. You know, we found out what tube goes to what coil. We went over to color coding and everything for both the transformer and for the chassis. And we found out here that this AC coil right here in the primary, normally this little coil that feeds the filaments or the heaters is located in the secondary. But on this radio, it's part of the primary. It's a little coil in the primary. It doesn't matter, you know, either side is going to be AC if it does not get rectified. This has not been rectified. So today what we're going to do is we're going to trace out the A, or the, you know, these are actually heaters. We're going to trace out the heater wires for the 335s, and we're going to trace out the heater wire right here for the 27. And see if we've got all this hooked up, and it is in fact hooked down here to this coil. Now we have other tubes, yeah, I know, but we're going to stay up here in this corner until we get everything figured out. We want everything to be in orange. And you can bet that, you know, we're going to find mistakes along the way. You know, the person that had this radio and kept it running probably understood exactly what he was doing. I think he did a good job, actually, even though crap was running everywhere. He had wires hooked up. I mean, I knew what he was doing. Rather than run a wire all the way back up here or something, he would pick up some voltage off the old Candome resistor that was down at the bottom, you know, which kept the radio going. You know, for all I know, this was a guy that, you know, during the Depression there was no money, and guess what? You know, when there's no money, you do what you can to keep things operational. I knew a guy that told me a story one time. He said during the Great Depression, when we had the tire wear out on our car, we would cut the sidewalls off of it and get another tire that was serviceable one way or the other, get that tire, and then take the tread, what was left from the old tire, and put it on the inside of the new tire that we were putting on the car. It wasn't a new tire. It was never a new tire, he said, but it was serviceable enough. Then we had one tread inside of another, and then we would blow it back up, and that's the way we'd run on it. I don't know, somehow in their mind they thought that would work better, you know, make the tires last longer. Anyway, so, you know, it was hook and crook during the Depression, and the guy that owned this, I would assume he just did it. Rather than replace parts, he just scavenged stuff out of other electronics somewhere. Kept her going, you know, could have been Grandma and Grandpa's radio. He kept it going, and old Grandma and Grandpa thought he was just a whiz kid, you know. Anyway, you know, every family had an Uncle Bill or Uncle Bob, or, you know, who took the National Radio Institute course, or learned it through books on his own to become an electronics expert back in those days. Every family had one. All right, so we're going to go ahead and check the heaters, the heater wiring next. So let's get started on that. Now, getting back down here to that little coil that runs all these heaters, you'll see that one side of it is ground. And, you know, they didn't, on the schematic, they weren't going to run a wire up to ground and ground on each of these two lines, and then another ground. What they did was they just went ahead, marked one ground to the chassis, and then up here, one side of these, now not this ground right here, not this ground, that's pin 4, we're on pin 1 and 5. One side of this heater was ground and one was not. Over here, one side of the heater was ground and one was not. It's either 1 or 5. The same thing here. Now in later schematics they would mark which side was grounded, but they didn't do this 85 years ago, okay? So it's up to, you know, it's up to us to figure it out. And again, either 1 or 5 was grounded. Not this one. This is the cathode, okay? 1 or 5. So we're going to have to figure out which one of these is ground and which one is not. Meaning, which one is ground that goes back to this end of the coil, or which one will go to the chassis. Because once you, if this is attached to the chassis, And the ground from these heaters are, one side is attached to the chassis. They become the same electrical point. So which side of is going to be hooked to the chassis, and the other side is going to be hooked to right here. Now, what is this thing we're actually looking at? Let me draw it on a piece of paper for you. You're actually looking at the power transformer with two of the wires coming out of it. Okay, now those two wires go in and connect to a coil inside the transformer. One goes over, connects to this end, and the other goes over and connects to this end, okay? Inside the transformer. All you have coming out is the two wires. And one of these wires will be grounded. The other one will run out to the filaments, or the heaters, okay? That's what you're actually looking at when you see something like this. These are the two wires coming out of the power transformer, all right? So let's find out which one of these wires is grounded to the chassis. Let's start out with the four tubes that we're talking about, the 335s and the 27. Let's get a little focus here. All right. Let me get this lamp a little. Okay, I think I better keep it like that. Now, we've already told you in the previous video that the heater wires are black. That's these wires right here. These wires, they go all the way up. Ah, there's wifey again. Let's go ahead and take a look at these sockets beginning down here. This is where the wire terminates on pin 1. One of these black wires terminate. Let me zoom in a little bit here. All right. These wires right here, this wire right here terminates on pin 1. That's this one right here on the top. The one in the middle also terminates right there. So we got two wires on pin 1. Remember, this is pin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'll tell you what, we need to make sure that pin 1 on each of these sockets shows continuity to the other pin 1s. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little alligator clip, I'm going to clip it right there. And now we're going to go ahead and look at our multimeter as we touch pin 1, back up here, on each of the tubes. Here we go. I'm going to move the lamp so it's easier to see the multimeter. Okay, there's pin 1. Let me touch it to pin 1 on this one and see what happens. We do have continuity. Good. Now let's go over to the next one. Here, touch pin 1 here. And we have continuity there. Let's go to the last one here, which is pin 1. Remember, pin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pin 1 right there. And we have continuity. That's great. That is great. Let's mark our schematic. All right, we now know that the pin 1s on each of these things are in fact connected together. Now what I'm going to do is go to pin 5. I'm going to leave the alligator clip on pin 1, then I'm going to touch pin 5 all the way up on each tube to make sure there's no continuity between those things. I don't want that to happen. We don't need a short. Now's the time to test to see, make sure you have no shorts between these wires. They are old, but they are in good shape. There's nothing wrong with them, and I don't want to disturb those sockets, okay? Now, this one's already been disturbed. Take a look at that one there. That's pin 5 at the first 35. Look at that thing, man. That thing's been butchered. We'll take a look at that once we get back up to that tube after we start ohming out here. All right, we're still connected to pin 1. Let's try, let me get our multimeter over here a little better. Let's make sure we don't have any shorts between these things where these wires might be touching, where insulation might have been bared or something. All right, let's go here. Nothing. Let's move it. This crazy thing out of the way. All right, let's go to pin 5 on the next one. Nothing. Pin 5 on the next one. Nothing. This is good. No shorts between the pins. No wires touching one another. Let's go to this one down here that's all boogered up. Somebody soldered on it. Nothing again. All right, there are no shorts. That's great. That's wonderful. That's wunderbar. Okay, now let's take a look at what we've got. I have to determine which one of these is the ground, 1 or 5. Which one of these is the ground and which one of these is the non-ground? You know, which is which? Well, let me see here. We do have this extra wire right here, this thing, and it is connected to pin 1. Now these other two sets of wires that run all the way up from, you know, pin to pin to pin to pin, but this wire here is kind of oddball sticking out, but it's black and it is original to the chassis. So let's go ahead and back up here a little bit. Follow this wire around. Probably won't even need the light to do this. Follow this wire around. See where it's going to take us. Well, it takes us over here to this wire right here. What's the deal on that wire? Well, it has a grounding tab on it. Yes, it does. It's got a grounding tab. Look at there. That thing will be screwed to the chassis with a washer and a screw and a nut and a lock washer or whatever. There, ladies and gentlemen, is our grounding tab. Our grounding point will be pin number 1. Pin number 1 is the ground that will be connected to each one of these. Now let's take a little closer look at it. Pretty bad job there, but what is this other wire hanging out here? Look at the other end. Let me get a little closer. Let's get down here where we can see this stupid thing. It's got a wire hanging out the end of it. Where does that go? It's been cut off. Well, I'll tell you what. When this thing grounded right here, you know, fastened to the chassis and grounded through that grounding tab right there, this wire coming in from the other side of it was looking for a ground also. Yes, it was. It was looking for a ground. We have a ground on this side. We have a ground on that side. Where could that have come from? How about, yes, yes it is, ladies and gentlemen. How about the wire coming out of the transformer? How about this wire right here? Yes. Yes, 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 yes. That is the ground side of that coil. Right here. There's where it is, okay? Same. Now you see that somebody cut that wire off right there when they removed the transformer. Oh, I know who did that. I did that. Yes, I did. I did it. I cut it. I am guilty. Guilty as charged, okay? So now we know that pin 1 is the ground on these heaters. Let's mark our schematic. All right, here we go. Pin 1. Pin 1. Actually, you know, by looking at this heater that was unmarked, pin 1 or pin 5, this one just as easily could have been 1. This one could have been 5. They weren't marked, so I just said, well, heck with it. This is 1, this is 5. It doesn't matter. All right, we will mark this one. And we will come down here and mark this one. All right, half the heaters are marked on the 335s and the 27. Let's go back to our chassis. It's got more to tell us. It has more to tell us. All right, we've taken care of pin 1 is the ground. Now we got to go to pin 5. Now 5, there's nothing connected to pin 5 here. Just a regular single wire right there. See it? Whereas this one had a couple of wires connected to it. This one only has 1. So we'll come up to pin 5, pin 5, pin 5. We get up here to pin 5. And what do we see right there? This is your pin 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the one that was butchered. Look at that terrible soldering job. Somebody has added this wire. What's on the end of that wire? some electrical tape. Ooh, that's always nice to see. Actually, is that electrical tape or that's friction tape? That's the old friction tape. Boy, that was put on there a while back. And what's coming out of the other end? A black wire. Ooh, another black wire. Guess what all of our heater wire colors are? They're black. Now, where do you think, let me see, this thing goes over in this direction over here. Yes, it does. Right up there toward the power transformer. Now, what do you think this black wire hooks to? Somebody added an extension on this. I don't know why they did. They must have messed up the wire years ago. And they wound up adding an extension and then soldering the black wire coming out of the power transformer to it. And then they put, I don't know, it could have been done at the factory. You never know. I have seen factory jobs like that where they actually used friction tape to do it. I have seen that. But it may have been like a don't let the boss know kind of deal, you know? Anyway, where do you think that black wire goes coming off of pin 5? Where do you think? Yes, right there. Let's go ahead and mark this thing. I want to mark it. I like chopping wires and marking schematics, as you can see. This is pin 1. This will be pin 5. Okay, there we go. So once we get the power transformer back in the chassis, and we will find these 2 wires coming out, we will hook this one to ground and over there to this little booger right here. We'll solder it, we'll clean up that mess and hook it to there after we get it all hooked to ground, or hooked back to ground. And then this one we'll go over and hook to pin 5 right here on the first 35. We're going to clean up that mess. That is some really bad soldering. Look at that, just a blob. It worked, but that's still really bad. That's where we'll hook the other wire. That's where we'll hook this wire, okay? Pin 5 on the, now that would be the, let me see, is that the RF? What is, yes, that's the RF. Okay, pin 5 on the RF tube. Now, wasn't that easy? We're going to end this video right here. I told you it was going to be a short one. I just wanted you to kind of figure out how to do that. Now we have, let me see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 more tube sockets to look at for heater power, for the heater power. But if you look at the schematic, we may even have another A we have to go to, because I noticed down here, right here, we have a stub sticking up of pin 1 on the first 35 tube right here, and a stub sticking up on pin 5. So these have tapped off here and gone to another tube that has A. Let's find out what that would be. Let me see, this is B, that's not it. B, there it is, B. See, B there and B there, that's not it. Get a little closer so you can see it. Overkill with detail, sorry about that. You ask for it, you're going to get it. I'm going to give it to you. There's the B. That's not what we're looking for. There's the B. We're not looking for that. Let's go down here. Let's see what we got down here. Oh, there's another B. And that looks like about it. We only had those 4 tubes. So we're going to have to figure out in a future video what those stubs are for. I really don't know. I just do not know. Let me see. No, I just don't know. We'll figure it out. It could be that this is where the transformer hooked up, pin 1 and pin 5, and this could be a ground, a lead leading over to one of the other tubes to provide power. I don't know. Right now, I'm saying no. I'm saying this is the ground, and this is the return into the coil in the transformer. Well, that's it. I hope you learned something else. That's what this stuff is all about. Anyway, until next time, this is John. Oops, silly me. I forgot to mark the other side of the heater. Yeah, we gotta mark the other side of the heater. It's just not complete. That's it. Oops, forgot to mark the coil. I just did it. Okay, now we're done for sure.